Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. Welcome to another podcast. I'm here on my own, just me today. Couldn't get it together to get anyone to film with me. I mean, everyone's offered. Sam's offered, Ellis has offered, my friend Lara's offered, and I just couldn't get myself together. So it is currently Thursday evening, and I'm recording this. It needs to be edited and uploaded before tomorrow morning. So when you're listening to this or watching this on Friday morning, I mean, I'm not completely alone. I do have Cooper with me. But he's not much of a talker, so he's not going to give me anything on this one. But I didn't want to not put anything out, and I didn't want to sort of miss out, so I thought I'm going to do it anyway. So on my own, roll the intro.
Hello and welcome to Confetti Conversations,
the podcast where me and my sister talk all things weddings, wedding planning and married life.
Okay, so in today's episode, I wanted to talk a little bit about managing stress during the wedding planning process. Wedding planning can be extremely stressful for multiple reasons. I mean, for me, I didn't necessarily find it stressful, but I think I was just dead set on what I wanted, and I knew what I wanted, and I was going to make it happen. I wasn't going to listen to anyone else, and I wasn't going to make any alterations. I was going to stay exactly how I wanted it. So for me, it was never a question of, like, I didn't get stressed about things because everything felt like it was in my control. Obviously, it's not that easy, and wedding planning in general can be really stressful for multiple different reasons. I think the two major stresses when it comes to wedding planning is money and expectations. For multiple reasons. I think expectation is a many-edged sword, in the sense that the expectations of your family, the expectations of what you think your friends are, expectations of who you're going to invite, of how it's going to look, of what you have in your head. All these things can be quite overwhelming when wedding planning, and that can lead to quite a lot of stress. The main sort of aim of wedding planning is to have fun and to enjoy the process, because at the end of the day, you're marrying the person that you love, and that's all that matters. All of the the added extra bits, the other people, they don't make as much, they're not the be all and end all. What is the be all and the end all is the person that you're marrying on that day. That's all that matters. And you can have all of these other factors that make you feel worried or anxious or stressed or any of those. But when it comes down to it, it's about you and that person. And I think that's something that I was really careful to keep referring back to. That no matter how much, my most biggest stresses probably were the fact that the marquee wasn't going to look filled. And I just had these visions of it just being this, like, just this marquee with a couple of little tiny little bits in it that just weren't going to fill the spaces the way I wanted them to. And I was so worried about it. It was like, that was my only real stress, I guess. And I wouldn't call it a massive stress. I was confident in what I was delivering, and I was confident that I was going to make the best that I possibly could. And yeah, I knew that it was going to be the best I could make it. So therefore, I just had to be confident in my decision. And that kind of helped me take the stress away. But there were times when I thought, gosh, I'm never going to be able to get this done. There's so much stuff to do. No, I need to make more. I need to do more. And I think staying confident in your decisions and true to what you want makes a massive difference. So in terms of how I managed my stress, I think number one is I planned everything within an nth degree. So I knew exactly what I was making, where it was going, how much of each thing I needed. Because I was a DIY bride, I needed to make these decisions to make sure that I wasn't going to overspend. I wasn't going to buy things that were unnecessary. I wasn't going to fall short on my decorations. I needed to make sure that everything I did was really intentional, and it meant that I was creating something that I looked at and was like, yeah, that's amazing. And I'm really proud of that. And I did feel that way. Um, but I needed to be really considered with everything I did and with how I did it to make sure that I was fitting in with my timelines and that I was not going to overspend. So there's two other things. So time is big, and I would say start things early, start small. Do things that you can store. I made all my own confetti bags. I made all my own confetti, and I started those pretty much as soon as we were engaged, because there were things that I knew were going to be time consuming. They weren't going to be difficult to store, but they were going to be something that I was desperate to have and I knew that I wanted. So I needed to be prepared that that was something I was going to do. So that was a really early thing that I started. And I think starting things early meant that I had more time to dedicate to the big things. So the little things that I could store really easily and do really easily were great. But the bigger things that needed to be done later on, if I was still faffing around doing the little things, I think I would have really struggled. So I was really determined that I was going to manage my time well. And at the time, I had no real dependence or anything. I don't really have a dependence now, but I have a horse and I have a dog. I had a full-time job. I was working for majority of the wedding planning. Well, half the wedding planning, I guess. I was working in an office and I was 5 days in an office. And then the latter part, I was at home, working at home, which obviously makes a massive difference. When you're not having commutes to deal with and all that kind of stuff, you have more time on your hands. So that allowed me to do a lot more in my evenings. But I would also have to be at the horse. I had other commitments, obviously wanting to see my friend. Like my friend? Sounds like I've only got one friend. My friends. You want to be able to see everybody, and you don't want to completely put your life on hold just to do wedding planning, but you do need to manage your time well and sort of say to yourself, by 6 months to go, I will have X amount done. By 3 months to go, I will have X amount done. And you need to give yourself those timelines so that you're not just sort of willy-nilly doing things, and you're then in this sort of position where the stress can come in. And stress doesn't help with anything. It makes things actually so much harder and a lot more difficult to deal with. So if you can manage those expectations and manage that stress, naturally everything will feel easier. Now obviously this is really easy for me to say, as I planned my wedding within 18 months. I think it was actually 17 months, but you know what I mean. I planned my wedding within like a really decent amount of time. I had the luxury that I was working from home. I had my mom, who she would come and do like all the vinyl that I put on mirrors and stuff like that. She would come and do that for me during the day whilst I was working. So I would have printed it the night before, and then she'd have come and done all of the applications whilst I was working. So actually, I was in a really fortunate position where she helped me do a lot. So I am aware that I am very lucky in that respect. But you can always lean on people. There's always people that want to help. Like all my bridesmaids ask me constantly, is there anything we can do? Is there anything we can do? And there genuinely wasn't, because I was organized and my time was well spent. Um, so if I needed them, I 100% would have lent on them, but I didn't need anything, because I had sort of organized it to the point where I knew what time I was doing everything, when everything needed to be done by. And yeah, I'd set myself a deadline of a month before the wedding to get everything completed, so that the last month before the wedding could be any additionals, any, little bits that I'd seen that I wanted to add, or touch ups or changes, anything like that. So I got everything ready and photographed a month before. So one thing that I did with all my stuff, a lot of this obviously applies to a DIY bride, because if you're hiring things, obviously you have the initial consultations and the decision making and all that kind of stuff, which is quite, it's quite a lot of weight on your shoulders. But then once it's all chosen, you then can sort of relinquish control and let the company do it for you. Um, or if you're hiring bits but setting it up yourself, you don't have to sort of, you can do the plans and stuff, but you'll probably do a lot of that with a company and then you'll come back to it later on. So it doesn't mean that you have that sort of I'm talking about the stuff, the table decorations, the additionals, the welcome signs, the seating plans. That's what I'm talking about here, is all of the bits that I made. Um so yeah, a month before the wedding, I got everything out. So I was living in a flat with a tiny little lounge and kitchen. It was, yeah, so tiny, but it was great. It did the job. So what I did is I moved my TV out and I got everything out that I would have needed for each display, each area. And I then packaged them straight up into boxes and labeled them. So I would do the display, take the photo, package them up. And I had previously done this. I did it with my mom early on, sort of the summer before. So maybe 8 months before the wedding. We got everything out because I was storing it in my sister's garage. And we put it all into the display. So I knew what I needed to buy. I knew what I already had. And then I used those photos as reference photos when I was going back and doing the final photos. And then I could sort of determine if I'd got enough stuff. And I'd calculated it really well. But I just wanted to make sure that I'd allocated, because everything was mishmash. I wanted to make sure that everything was allocated so that I didn't use all the good ones. There were bad bits, but it didn't matter. I didn't want to use all the good ones on one table and then the last table have a load of rubbish ones and I'd have to go back through and do it. But I did everything in boxes. Every table was in a box, every display was in a box, and it meant that when it got to, and I'd also done a map of the room, and I'd like pinpointed where everything was going. So when it got to the day, everybody could, it was on my laptop because I forgot to print it, but everyone could see, okay, table plan is over here, dance floor is over here. So it just made everything really seamless. And I think, again, for the day before your wedding, to take away any stress like that, so much better. So yeah, planning ahead and time management are really important to reducing stress. I think the next big one is money. Money is a real big factor in stress levels when it comes to wedding planning, and I get it. It's it's a big outlay of money. You don't need to spend a lot. You don't need to, you can have weddings on a budget. You can basically make it suit your lifestyle and what you're willing to spend on it. It really depends on your feelings towards getting married, whether you feel, obviously you want to get married because you're getting married. But for me, I was happy with a certain figure, and that was quite a lot of money, and like, not extortionate, but I think we spent about 25 grand on our wedding, and that was what I wanted to spend. I didn't really want to spend any more or any less, and I think we pretty much hit it bang on the head. I didn't count the last couple of pounds probably, so we might be slightly over that, but yeah, pretty much dead on to 25 grand, which is a lot of money to spend on one day. I am very aware, but I would spend it again in a heartbeat because it was worth every single penny. But I tracked and calculated every single penny, and I knew exactly what everything was going to cost me. I knew where I had wiggle room, I knew where I didn't have wiggle room, and I was really conscious to make sure that my budget worked for me and I was getting the things I wanted. There were some things that I had to let go of that ordinarily I would have kept if I could. But you learn to sort of, you're building a picture of a perfect day. And there are certain things that can be taken out of the picture, but there are certain things that definitely can't. So for me, for example, a videographer, non-negotiable. And I've spoken about this before on the podcast. I would have a videographer over and over and over and over again, and I would encourage everybody to have one. I have not spoken to a single person who has regretted a videographer, but I have spoken to a fair amount of people that have regretted not having a videographer. So obviously it's budget depending, but to me, it was a non-negotiable. So I had to find that money in my budget, which meant maybe didn't have some things that I might have wanted to have. Um, I also was really careful with my food options because food wasn't mine and Sam's biggest, the thing we cared about the most. Whereas like Haley and Ellis, food was high up on their list. Food and drink was high up on their list. Whereas for me and Sam, drink was important, but we wanted somewhere that had a big variety of drinks. Like we wanted lots of good shots because we love like baby Guinnesses and stuff like that. We wanted somewhere that had preferably cocktails because we knew that a lot of people would have cocktails. And we just wanted somewhere that had the vibe was what we wanted. And for me, maybe not necessarily for Sam, the decoration was big on my list and something I really wanted to get right. So decoration came above food for me. So we spent more money on our decorations than we did on our food. Um, that's actually probably a lie. That is probably a lie. Um, I couldn't tell you how much we spent on money or food, but what I mean is that we were very budget conscious when we were choosing our food. And luckily, the option we chose was the cheapest option and also the one that Sam was most drawn to. And he's a fussy eater. So that worked for us. But we had to compromise, we had to save money on food so that we could have the decorations that we wanted, or I could have the decorations that I wanted. But I also bought a lot secondhand. I bought a lot from Facebook Marketplace. I bought a lot from um charity shops. Bought so much stuff from charity shops. And I tried lots of ways to be sustainable, as we've said before, but also to save money where I could. That was really important to me, to save money and not, you know, not spend money on things brand new when I could go to a charity shop and get them a lot cheaper. And I was lucky because I worked from home and the flat that we lived in was directly in the center of town. So on my lunch break, I would walk into town and visit every single charity shop in the town. It's not very big. Um, to scout out anything that I might need. And everywhere we went, my friends and family will tell you, anywhere that we went in that wedding planning time, I was in a charity shop. We had to go to charity shops because I had to find the things I was looking for. I bought some bits from Vinted. I did buy stuff from Shein. I bought bits from Amazon, eBay, but mostly I tried really hard to get a lot from charity shops and Vinted and stuff like that, just to keep the cost down for starters, but also to be sustainable. But yeah, I was really careful with my budget. I really looked after my budget and I nurtured my budget in a way that I knew where everything was going and what I was spending. And it then meant that there was no stress of, oh my goodness, we're not going to have any money. We're spending too much. We're running out of money. There was none of that because we knew where every penny was going and we knew what we were doing and we knew how much we needed to spend on certain things and we'd budgeted however much. And if I spent money, I'd put it in the budget. And I would highly recommend doing that. So those would probably be my top 3 tips for myself for managing stress. Ways that I kept my stress down was planning to an nth degree and having list upon list. And I drew my displays 100 times, but it made my brain feel calmer. Time management, making sure that everything is done as early as you possibly can, but not too early that you start to go off it, but early enough that you have time to make any changes or to add anything that you would like additional. And then manage your budget, keeping across your budget and making sure that you are working towards the right goal. Those would be my top tips. Oh, and also remember that you are doing it to marry the person you love. You're not doing it for any other reason. Okay, so now that we've talked about my ways of managing stress, I have put into ChatGPT, as always, how to reduce stress when wedding planning. And this is what it's come back with. So, number one, get clear on what really matters. Sit down with your partner and pick your top 3 priorities. Like I said, as was decorations, vibe. My sister's was party, food, vibe. I think hers was vibe as well. So yeah, definitely thinking about what is the most important to you. Let the smaller details go. Not everything has to be perfect. Now that I don't necessarily agree with. I think some of the smaller details are the best part about it. I just think you have to plan ahead. I think don't let the small details go. Make it exactly as you want it, but just make sure that you have enough time to execute those smaller things. And then at this I quite like, ask yourself, will we remember this in 5 years before stressing about it? 100%. Will you? Is it that important? You have to think about how important these things are and whether they're actually going to make a difference to your day, and to the reason that you're there to marry your partner, the person you love most in the world. Okay, next is create a manageable timeline. Break tasks into monthly or weekly chunks instead of trying to do everything at once. 100%, like I said, making sure that you have everything is being done in a timely manner, but you have like deadlines, I guess, would be my biggest piece of advice, so that you know that you're going to hit things at a certain point. Use tools like Google Sheets, Trello, or wedding planning apps to track your progress. Now, I've never thought about using Trello. I use Trello at work. So it's basically like a big notebook where you can have lots of different tabs with lots of different tasks. And then you just tick them off when you're done. And you can share it with other people. So, if your parents or bridesmaids or groomsmen or whoever may be helping you do the planning, they can have access to your Trello board and you can all sort of tick things off individually, add things to the list should you need it. You can assign tasks to certain people so that they know what they're doing. I think that's a really good idea, actually. And Google Sheets, again, it's a similar sort of premise, but Trello just looks pretty, I guess. And then schedule no wedding weekends to recharge and reconnect. I 100% agree with that. Just because you're getting married doesn't mean that your whole world has to revolve around the wedding. You can do other things. You can live your life outside of the wedding. You don't have to always be a couple that's getting married. You can just be a couple. Number 3, delegate and accept help. Assign tasks to family, friends, or even your wedding party. They want to help. And that's so true. The amount of time my bridesmaids asked me to help, and I didn't need any help because I had my mom. I was really lucky. I'd got the time to do it, and I was just chipping away doing at it. In hindsight, I wish I had have asked them to come and help me, because I think it would have been a really lovely exercise to do together. Like, I did bits with my sister and some of her bridesmaids came over, and it was just a really lovely thing to do. But yeah, I think it's just a nice thing to do as a bonding exercise as well before your wedding. Consider hiring a day of coordinator to manage logistics so you can actually enjoy your wedding. Now, this I think actually is a really brilliant idea. And a day of coordinator is somebody who is there purely to make your day run as smoothly as possible. Their sole focus is you two as a couple having the best day ever. They will deal with all of the logistics of the day. They will make sure that you walk down the aisle on time, that your your day runs as smoothly as possible. Your venue coordinator is there to make sure that everything in the venue goes to plan. So your drinks reception is on time, the food is on time, your entrance is on time. They're not necessarily there to do the small bits. I was really lucky that my venue coordinator was very hands-on and he dealt with a lot of it. I also had a brilliant photographer who did a lot of it, because honestly, if I didn't have those two, I don't know how I would have done my day, because I didn't have to think about anything. They did it all for me. But not every venue and photographer is like that. A lot of them are much more relaxed. And I think you having a day of coordinator takes away any risk of that. You will have every minute planned, and you'll never know if there's a crisis because they'll have just dealt with it. And yeah, 100%. I think if you're worried about the day being stressful, hire a day of coordinator. It will take a lot of weight off your shoulders. And remember, it's okay to say no to ideas that don't fit your vision or budget. That is really true. I had a really open and honest conversation with my mom early on in the wedding planning journey, because she didn't really get my vision to begin with. She didn't really get what I was trying to say. And it was really frustrating for me. So I kind of just said to her very, very early on, look, for us to have a nice time here and for both of us to enjoy this process, I need you to not disagree with what I want. I need you to not just blindly say, yeah, yeah, whatever you want, but I need you to say, like, I love that idea. Have you thought about this as well? Or along those lines, not this, which she can sometimes do, bless her, is like, oh, I'm not sure about that. Oh, I don't know if that'll work. Because she can be a little bit, like, she can have a bit of a negative mindset sometimes, my mom. But I said to her very openly, very honestly, Mom, I need you to be like this, and I need you to work like this, and then we'll both be happy. And she was like, yeah, fine, okay. And we genuinely never argued a single day of the wedding planning process. We both just got on really well. She obviously gave me her opinions and she told me things that she didn't think would work. And I obviously listened, took on board what I thought I needed to, and didn't do what I didn't think I needed to. But I'm glad that I had that conversation with her, because I think we could have really struggled with that process together, because we can clash, um, if I hadn't have been really open and honest with her. And I'm lucky that I can be really open and honest with my mom and, really let her know how I'm feeling. Okay. Build in self-care. So I think this is amazing, really. Keep up your normal routines. Sleep, exercise, and nutritious food matter more than color palettes. It's so true. I think, you know, sleepless nights, obviously, they can't always be avoided. But if you can try your best to keep your routines normal and keep doing what you're doing, don't try and do anything crazy or, add in any new things that might not work. Keep everything the same so that your body feels regulated and happy and all that kind of stuff. Try short daily stress relievers, deep breathing, meditation apps like Calm or Headspace, or walk outside. I think if you're struggling with stress, then yes, definitely do this. I always find a walk helps me. Um, but I think it's not necessary if you're not struggling with stress. I think walks are always good for, if you've been doing a lot of indoor activities. I think going out for a walk is invaluable. There's nothing that a bit of fresh air can't fix. Some days, not every day, obviously. Schedule your time. Schedule time for you and your partner to talk about anything but the wedding. Again, brilliant. Like, you do need to remember that you are not just a couple getting married. You are a couple and you want to be enjoying this time together as much as planning your wedding. Set a realistic budget. Money is one of the biggest stressors. Be upfront about what you can spend and stick to it. Again, exactly as I said before, you need to make sure that your budget is tight. There's always wiggle room, and if you have wiggle room, put it in the budget. If you say this is the ideal amount we want to spend, stick that at the bottom, and then just put contingency, wiggle room, whatever you want to do, and put it in there So you know it's there, but you don't want it to be used. Put it in red or something, so you know that is not to be used, but it's there just in case we need it. And this is exactly what I've just said. Add a small buffer fund, about 10% for unexpected costs to avoid last minute panic. So yeah, make sure that you do have that little buffer just in case. So you could always say your budget is, say for me, my budget was 25. In reality, I should have 27 and a half as a buffer, just in case. That's 10%. So yeah, just think about that. I don't know that we really did, but there was money available if we needed it, essentially. And then keep perspective. Remember, this is one day to celebrate your love, not a performance. And it's so true. I'm just going to read all of these in a row, actually. Focus on the marriage, not just the wedding. Things might go wrong, and that's okay. Often these moments become the best memories. It's so true. There is a whole reason that you are marrying this person, and there's no point in doing it if you're not keeping that goal in mind. Keep the marriage in mind, not the wedding. The wedding is one day, the marriage is forever, and that is the most important thing. Okay, I hope that's helped anybody who's feeling any sort of stress within within wedding planning. I found wedding planning quite stress less. And I think a lot of it was to do with my planning, my organization, and how I chose to do my planning. And I think if you can find a way that works for you and make sure that you're, again, I've said this before, but I think it's imperative that you're planning ahead, your timeline is strict, and your budget is watertight. And so those three things, planning, timeline, and budget, those are going to be the three things that are really going to help you not to stress. And also, just remember, you're marrying the person that you love, and that is the most important thing. So I hope that you liked this podcast of just me on my own. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to talk for this long, but I've done all right. This is not as short as I thought it was going to be. So I'm going to get this edited, get this up on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And I hope you enjoyed it. And I will see you next time. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to follow, share, review, all of the above. We really appreciate it. But for now, I'm Phillipa. This was Confetti Conversations, and I'll see you next time. Bye.